everybody! Happy St. Patrick's Day to all! A holiday that I just realized was today when I looked over at my calendar and was like, oh, I should probably put on a green shirt and make my office green. I don't know how to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I don't drink, so, like, what else is there to do? I will say this, though. It is easier to celebrate than the Ides of March a few days ago. I mean, I guess the only proper way to celebrate that holiday is to kill Julius Caesar, and that dude's been dead for well over 2,000 years, so not really much you can do there. Anyway, today we're going to be looking at all of the supernovas, excluding Blackbeard, because he's not part of the group. So now, we're just going to be looking at the 11 super rookies and where they're all at in the world and what they're up to. Are they dead? Are they currently unknown status? I'm looking at you, Urouge. Actually, we're going to start off with Urouge. We're going to go in order of their lowest bounty to the highest bounty of the supernovas when they were introduced at the Sabaody Archipelago, all right? Some of their bounties actually have not changed, or rather, they probably have. It's just we do not know what their new bounties are. So yeah, you know what? We're kicking this off with the lowest supernova bounty, 108 million, Urouge, the Mad Monk, all right? Oda, can you just give us something about Urouge? Like, even, tell you what, at this point, I'll take an off-screen death, all right? Just give me some information on what's happening to the guy, all right? Like, even if it's like we're in Elbaf right now, and one of the giants just offhandedly mentions, like Gerd just mentions, oh yeah, there was a pirate with wings that came by here a few months ago, he died. Oh, okay, whatever, like, all right, well, the R.I.P. Urouge, there you go. At least we had some, like conclusion to his story, dude. I made a video about where Urouge is back in September of 2020. Back in the plague times, I made a video about Urouge. Not a single piece of new information has come out since then about what's up with Urouge. So you know what? I'm just going to do my own headcanon here, all right? Urouge gave up the pirate life. Last time we saw him was when he was at Balloon Terminal praying to Kaido when he, fell off the side and everything. That was the last time we saw him. So you know what? Urouge decided to give up the pirate life, travel the seas of the Sky Islands. He found a really cool island. He built a giant fortress, and now Urouge sits on a throne of skulls, shirtless with his bulging muscles like Conan the Barbarian. He sits there and he rules over the Sky Islands with an iron fist. Retribution! Ah! I just watched Conan the Barbarian for the first time the other day. The original one from the 80s with Arnie. Yeah. It was good. It was much more, like, not as much dialogue. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess I was expecting Conan the Barbarian to just be like Arnold sword fighting for 2 hours, which there is a lot of that, but it was more, how to explain it? More bombastic than I expected. The music in that movie is incredible. Mako's in it, for God's sake. Who played General Iroh in Avatar. I didn't even know that, all right? Amazing movie. It was okay. It was a good movie. All right, anyway. So then we can have that with Urouge. Urouge just sits on a throne and just like, this is my life now. I'm this badass ruler of a sky island. I'm not getting involved with any of that crap down there. And really, why would he not do that, right? Like, if Urouge... He got his ass kicked quite a few times down in the Blue Sea, right? He's got his ass kicked by Pacifistas and Kizaru at Sabaody, and then he got his ass kicked by Cracker. You know what I mean? You think at a certain point he'd be like, wait a minute. I'm from the sky. I'm a Bjerken. I don't have to deal with this bullshit. I don't have to stay in the Blue Sea world. I could go back up to the White Sea and I could just hang out up there. It's honestly probably the safest place to be, given the fact the world is gonna flood, dude. If Urouge was present during Vegapunk's message, which now that I think about it, Oda focused on so many people listening to Vegapunk's message, it would probably be easier to point out the characters that were not shown in the entire One Piece story that were listening to Vegapunk's message, okay? He even does show, like, Conus and Wiper and everybody up in the sky. They're not listening to the message, they're just going about their daily lives because they don't have any idea what's going on down there. But he doesn't show Urouge. Oda did not show Urouge. So either Oda's forgotten about him, which I highly doubt, or he's just like, oh, I have something planned for Urouge, everybody. Don't worry. He's going to show up. It's going to be great, all right? It's going to be awesome. He's going to show up, and it's going to be fantastic, you know? And okay, Oda, I'm trusting you there. But really, if he was even on the Blue Sea and he listened to that message, his immediate first reaction was like, screw this. I'm going back upstairs. I'm going back up to the White Sea. I'm going to live in the sky. I'm not dealing with this crap down here, all right? So that's what we know is about Up with Urouge, which is as to say we don't know what's up with Urouge. But, yeah, I mean, he's probably not dead. I mean, he was recovering at Balloon Terminal. Kaido did not fight him or anything when he was up there. So he's most likely not dead unless he was off-screened at some point. But, yeah. Anyway, moving on to the next supernova that has the lowest bounty at the time of their introduction. It's actually Zoro. Yeah, Urouge had 108 million and Zoro had 120 million at Sabaody. And a lot of people, I feel like, forget that Zoro is a supernova. A lot of times in the anime, when they show the scenes with the supernovas, sometimes they will not include Zoro. I don't know. I mean, they remember to include Killer, and he's the first mate of the Kid Pirates, but Zoro sometimes is excluded, but he was 100%. He had over 100 million bounty at Sabaody. He was 100% a supernova. So anyway, yeah, Zoro, he is currently at Elbaf alongside Luffy, and they're facing down Loki. Zoro just finished unlocking all of Loki's chains except for one, and got to witness it as Loki picked up Ragnir, the giant hammer, and smashed it into the Yggdrasil Atom Wood tree, summoning a giant lightning bolt. Zoro, actually, if you go back and look at the last chapter, Zoro's reaction to that, it was pretty, like, calm and serious. He was just like, all right. See what this guy can do. Boom! All right. Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Okay. You know, he didn't seem like shocked or stunned or anything like, whoa, I've made a horrible mistake letting him go. And I think Zoro was like, all right. Yeah, no, this guy's pretty powerful. This guy's pretty strong. I kind of want to fight this dude, right? And considering Sanji is there right now alongside Luffy and Zoro, we could have the original monster trio go up against Loki in the next chapter. And we could really see Loki's power, even as he's still shackled. He's like what he could really do, what his devil fruit is capable of. I'm really looking forward to that. But yeah, Zoro and Luffy obviously are on Elbaf at the moment. Next up, we have Capone Gang Bege with 138 million at the time of Sabaody. It eventually gets up to, I think, 300 million, and then after the events of Whole Cake, he gets up to 350 million. So Bege, honestly, has a pretty good, I mean, like, everything seems to be going swimmingly for him right now, which is to say maybe things could go south at some point, but right now everything seems to be going good. After the events of Whole Cake Island, they were able to steal that tart ship, and they left Whole Cake. They got out of Big Mom's territory, out of Tatoland. They eventually end up stealing a marine vessel. They eventually end up getting to Dressrosa, and they meet Lola there, who is Chiffon's sister. You know, they're both children of Big Mom, and then that whole thing kind of, we also get introduced to Prince Groose and Kujaku there, during that little Gang Bege's Oh My Family cover story. And eventually what happens is that Gotti, one of the members of the Fire Tank Pirates, you know, one of the named members, we had the captain, who's Bege, and then we had the first mate, which I'm assuming is Vito. I don't know if it was ever stated that Vito was the, you know, first mate, but he basically is. And then Gotti is also up there as well as one of the higher ranking members. Gotti runs into Lola. They fall madly in love with each other, and the cover story ends with Gotti and Lola getting married, which means that he's now part of Bege's family. So we get some Godfather vibes there with Bege. That's the kind of the whole basis for his character, right? A little bit of that, a little bit of Capone in there. I mean, that's the whole idea, gangster movies, right? So we now have Chiffon married to Bege, and they have a child, Pez. And then we have Lola, the sister of Chiffon, marrying Gotti, who is now Bege's brother-in-law, I guess. You know, that's how that would go. Yeah, there it is, okay? And the last time we saw them was at the wedding. That's how the cover page, the cover series concluded. I mean, we don't know anything else about what happened to him. We also, I don't think, saw them listening to the message of Vegapunk either. But it's okay, because if the Fast and Furious movies have taught me anything, as long as you have family, everything will be fine. All you gotta have is family and fast cars. Time to take the One Piece. And then it's Bege, Vito, Lola, Chiffon, Gotti, even Pez, and they all just get in their giant, like, race cars and everything. They just come out of the ship and they just start racing everywhere, and then that'll be the conclusion of Bege's story, I'm sure. But yeah, he's doing okay. He's doing all right. All right, next up, with 140 million bounty at the beginning, we have Jewelry Bonney. She currently has a 320 million berry bounty. Might have gone up actually even higher than that, considering after the events of Egghead, and now that she has like the highest authority for the pacifistas that Vegapunk kind of bamboozled the Gorosei on that one. Her bounty might be a lot higher now. But anyway, we learned a lot about Bonney during Egghead. We learned about her backstory. We learned about Kuma and how she was raised and how she had the sapphire scale and everything. We learned about her mom, Ginny, a little bit there. The whole situation with that. They were able to get away from Egghead, and she is currently on Elbaf alongside Lilith. They're in the Warrior Spring area. Lilith is attempting to get her citizenship into Elbaf, and Bonney is also hoping that she can heal her dad. Kuma is also there as well. Pacifista PX0. And so Bonney did ask Lilith, hey, can you save my dad? Can you heal my dad? And Lilith was like, yeah, well, not right now because, all of the technology of Egghead isn't here on Elbaf, but hopefully we'll be able to build that up, and eventually we will be able to cure Kuma. Now, this is something that's a little bit contentious in the One Piece community right now, because it's like, what did Lilith mean by that? Did Lilith mean that she was just going to fix up Kuma, in order to get him to move around again? Because he's kind of like immobile right now after all the damage he, incurred getting from, the damage he suffered, at being a slave of the Celestial Dragons, and then the revolutionaries were trying to fix him up, and then he left again to go rocket over to Egghead. He fought a Kainu along the way. He got bombarded by marine fire on the Red Line, so he's pretty banged up, and then he landed and was able to do like one major punch to Saturn, and then after that couldn't really move anymore. So Lilith being able to repair Kuma in that capacity, that's not really an issue. But if she was talking about like healing Kuma in that, like, returning his personality and stuff, when his brain, he's essentially brain dead right now, other than just like a few kind of like pure like instincts he has to like protect his daughter and stuff. Other than that, I'm not really sure if Kuma's personality is ever going to return to him, or if that's even a good thing in terms of like look, would it be good for us to see Kuma and his daughter like be reunited truly, and have his sense of self back? Yeah, that would be great. Does that make sense for the story that Oda's trying to tell? But yeah, Lilith is working on that right now, and Bonney is probably just going to be hanging out with her wherever she's establishing her lab, I would assume, and also like her dad's there, and they'll be hanging out there. But there's not much Kuma can really do other than just kind of sit down and smile. That's kind of what he's limited to do right at this moment. Now, this is also in the Warrior Spring, right next to the Walrus School and the Owl Library, where shit is kind of hitting the fan right now, where we have the Gods Knights arriving, Killingham and Summers and Gunko, Shamrock. Oh, Shamrock reference on St. Patrick's Day. I got nothing else beyond that, but yeah, Shamrock left. He's not even there anymore. He's not even here for St. Patrick's Day, so whatever. He goes back to Marijois. They're using a combination of their devil fruit abilities to lure the children out of the school and also summon their worst nightmares in the forest. That's where the last chapter left off, is sort of a cliffhanger. But yeah, Bonney and Lilith are right there around that area. Kuma is as well. So maybe they can contribute to fighting these nightmare creatures. You had Frankie, Robin, Chopper. You have the students and the teachers from the Walrus School. You have Saul, who's also there, who's a librarian. Biblo is there, the owl. Maybe he could do some really cool stuff. Ripley is there. She's a biology teacher. So, yeah, and then also Lilith, Kuma, and Bonney. So, yeah, I don't feel like we're going to get really a lot more information involving Bonney, because, like I said, Egghead was more of her arc, not so much Elbaf. She might just be more in the background. But there is some stuff from Egghead that we need to kind of, like, wrap up here, And then there's the whole thing with Lilith revealing, oh, by the way, Vegapunk's like cryogenically frozen body that's in stasis. We have that too. So it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff there. I just don't think we're going to be focusing on it too much in the upcoming chapters. This might be a thing where we're going to have the arc of Elbaf focusing on Loki and the Gods Knights and everybody, and then Bonney and Lilith will be there for maybe some of the battles and some of the fights. But then after the arc is over, I'm assuming the Straw Hats are going to go forward into the New World to try to get to Laugh-Tale or Lodestar or wherever they're heading next after Elbaf, and I'm pretty sure Kuma, Lilith, and Bonney are going to remain on Elbaf, if there still is an Elbaf after this is all over, because who knows, this place could get destroyed too. The entire tree could get lit on fire by the end of it. But provided that doesn't happen, they're going to stick around there while Lilith is trying to establish her lab to try to heal Kuma. So there we have that. Okay, next up, we have 162 million. We have Massacre Machine Killer. I feel bad for Killer. I really do. He gave Kid so many outs for going to Elbaf and picking a fight with Shanks. Once again proving that Massacre Machine Killer is the most rational person amongst the Kid Pirate crew, right? You know, actually one of the more rational people in the entire story, straight up. He went up to Kid and he was like, hey, we're going to Elbaf next. Are you sure we want to go there? Yeah. All right. Oh, hey, Shanks is here. You sure you want to start this fight? Yeah. We can take him. We're strong. We took down Big Mom. I mean, yeah, Trafalgar helped me a little bit, but whatever, who cares? That's not relevant. I did most of the work there. We can take down Shanks. In fact, I'm so confident, I'm just gonna bombard the entire shore with my damned punk. Let's go, Killer. Killer's like, you lost an arm last time? Dude, you're like my best friend. But, like, you got wrecked so hard last time. It wasn't even Shanks that cut off your arm, for God's sake. It was Ben Beckman. And Ben Beckman doesn't even use a bladed weapon. How did that even happen? He sliced off your arm with the butt of his rifle. I mean, that's... Are you sure you want to do this? Hell yeah! Damn, punk! And it's like, all right, okay, sure. And then Shanks, you know, immediate future sight, like... danger approaching, and then runs clean at him, slices apart the railgun, uses divine departure, Kamusari, slices it in half, blasts Kid away. The entire ship is on fire. Killer jumped in at the last minute to try to do something. Shanks also caught him with the attack. He's there. His entire mask is cracked and broken. He's unconscious. Eustace is unconscious. Shanks is there. He gives zero fucks about this whole situation. The crew is there. You know, Heat and Wire and everybody are like, oh, please, spare our captain. Spare the first mate. Just take the poneglyphs and leave. We're sorry. We'll never bother you again. Shanks doesn't even take the poneglyph etchings. I'm pretty sure he doesn't. He just jumps back on his ship, and then Dory and Broggy finish the job by blowing up the Victoria Punk. And on that day, the Kid Pirates, captained by Eustace Captain Kidd, were completely destroyed. So, yeah, now, we've been in Elbaf for a little while now. We've been in Elbaf for a hot minute, about 15, 16 chapters. Nobody's mentioned Kid. Dory and Broggy, they haven't brought him up. They haven't said anything. They haven't said, like, you know, oh, yeah, Kid and Killer tried to attack us a few days ago before we went to go pick you guys up at Egghead. Oh, Shanks gave them a walloping for sure. Shanks spanked their asses big time. And then we blew up their ship. They don't bring it up. They don't mention it. Dude, you got to look at it from this other perspective, too. Like, look at it like there were humans that, like, kind of washed ashore on Elbaf that ended up in the forest, in the primordial world, right? They were kind of the servants of Loki. If you were going to have Kid and Killer and the crew maybe still be alive, that would be a good place to put them. But they weren't there as far as we're concerned, and I think Gunko slaughtered all of them anyway, right? So from what we understand, they weren't there. Maybe Oda could spin it like they were there the entire time, like those cloaked figures, like one of them turned out to be, you know, Heat or something like that. Maybe. Also, they could have ended up in Rhodes' Lego castle in the land of the gods. You know, it was like Rhodes could have, like, after the battle was over, be like, oh, look, I found the body of Eustace Captain Kidd. Well, he's not the most rare figurine, but, like, yeah, he's good enough, I suppose. I'll put him in the Lego City. No, that doesn't happen either. None of the giants are bringing him up. So, yeah, I think Kid and Killer might just be straight up dead. Except it's One Piece, so I'm hesitant to say they're straight up dead, right? We'll get to another one of the Supernovas here in a moment that also is most likely dead, but Oda's kind of giving himself an out for maybe he's still alive. You know, we'll see that. But yeah, Killer got it pretty hard, and so did Eustace, and no updates on that. So unless they are just kind of like after the Victoria Punk exploded, I'm assuming that did not kill all the members of the Kid Pirates, probably a lot of them, but not every single one of them. Obviously, Kid and now Killer also has a Devil Fruit ability because Killer ate the Smile, and that also gives him a weakness to water, just not, with none of the benefits, really. So if any of the crew was still alive, they could have grabbed them and gotten to them to shore. That might not have been a big issue, but now they're stuck in the primordial world of Elbaf, and there's a lot of dangerous creatures there, and you know the giants aren't going to help them at all. So unless there's some spin here on, like, where were they at the entire time? I mean, I guess you could also, because Elbaf is really massive too. I guess you could say that the crew managed to get Killer and Kid to shore and resuscitate them. Hopefully the doctor didn't get killed in the process. And then they just found a cave or some place to, like, hide out in the primordial world. And now they're there just trying to hang on to, like, you know, like trying to make sure that Kid is still alive, just to hold on to something. And we just haven't heard about them yet. But not looking too good. Not looking too good at all. You might just want to just be like, R.I.P. Eustace Captain Kidd, R.I.P. Massacre Machine Killer, and just hey, we gotta get rid of some of these supernovas. You know, not every single one of them can be king of the pirates. We gotta move on with this, right? Next up, with a bounty of 198 million at Sabaody, now currently 350 million, we have Scratchman Apoo, the Roar of the Sea. You know what? He's another one that just kind of, we don't know where he's at right now, but he's alive and he must be doing something, okay? So remember at the beginning when we see Kid and Hawkins and Killer and Apoo, when the new world is really starting up, they were at Kid's pirate base. Kid had a base. Wasn't that great at the time? Yeah, Kaido annihilated it, but he was trying to go places anyway. Apoo was secretly working for Kaido and kind of told him about the location and everything like that, and eventually got, you know, Kaido there. I mean, he was attempting to just jump off the side of a sky island at the time, but maybe that was his appointment, to show up there and decimate Kid and Hawkins and Killer and throw them in jail. Hawkins decided to join the crew. Kid and Killer were a little bit less reciprocal of that, and then Apoo was working for them the entire time. Now, during the entire battle at Onigashima, there were plenty of opportunities for Apoo to just straight up die. Kid fought him again. Zoro cut him down to get the like the anti-toxin or whatever to the virus and everything. Like, there was that scene. Him and Drake fought against Cypherpole Zero for a moment there. He was also palling around with the numbers, you know, the top 3 numbers, especially Inbi, who was the number 1 of the numbers, right? And when the whole thing caught fire, they were trying to escape together. Remember that scene, right? So a lot of opportunities for Apoo to die, but he didn't. He somehow managed to make it through the entire arc without any major grievous injuries, honestly. And the last time we see Apoo, he is at the docks at Wano as everybody is repairing their ships and getting ready to leave Wano. The festival is still going on at this point there. He's the one that shows up with Inbi and has the newspaper for the new wanted posters for Law and Kid and Luffy, and that they all have 3 billion, and that Luffy is the new Yonko in place of Kaido and all that stuff, right? He's there for that. And then that's it. That's the last time we saw him. He's at the shore, and then that's kind of all that happens there. So we can assume a few things. Some of his crew had to still have survived. Inbi, one of the numbers, is now part of his crew. And I'm assuming they're going to leave. But where did they go is the thing. Because if you're following the log pose after Wano, there are only 3 islands that it's pointing to, because of the 3 magnetic compasses and stuff. You have Wiener Island, which is where Law ended up and was defeated by Blackbeard. Then you have Egghead, which is where the Straw Hats ended up. And then you have Elbaf, which is also where the Straw Hats ended up, but Kid ended up there first, right? So I don't think Apoo would have went to any of those locations. I highly doubt it, because we didn't see him go to any of those locations, and I don't think that's where his goal was. Remember, he was allied with Kaido. He had threw in his lot with Kaido as like, I'm going to work for you, and then Kaido was defeated, and then you also have Hawkins, and we'll get to him in a moment where his situation lied, but Hawkins and Apoo both decided to opt to work for Kaido. Not like a double agent kind of thing like Drake or anything, but honestly, we're committed to helping him become the Pirate King. So you can actually bring up that maybe Apoo gave up his desire to become Pirate King. Maybe he wanted that at some point, wanted to find the One Piece, but he just got to the point where it's like, hey man, I can't fight Kaido. I can't beat Kaido. Might as well just bend the knee to him and then just, you know, help him become Pirate King and just do it along the way and try to defeat all the other supernovas, you know, that way, right? So, I'm thinking, and I don't think Apoo stayed on Wano either. I think he did leave Wano. So where I think he is at right now, the most logical place for him to go, I think he would go to Hachinosu. because Hachinosu is also relatively around that same area of the sea. It's the pirate island. It's the pirate paradise. If Apoo is not, like, dedicated to be like, you know what? I am going to go try to be king of the pirates. I will be the DJ that will control the world. You know, if that's not his new game plan, which I kind of doubt it is, I think that, yeah, he's probably just going to go, all right, let's go to Pirate Paradise. Let's go to Pirate Island, see if I can work for Blackbeard, right? Like, I could go to Blackbeard because, to be honest with you, Apoo and Hawkins were kind of loyal to Kaido the entire way through. You know what I mean? Like, Hawkins, like, he was dedicated to defeat Killer, and he just lost. Now, Apoo kind of, sort of, was doing his own thing, so, you know, he was, like, working alongside the numbers at one point of just, like, oh, maybe we could just get the hell out of here and stuff. So he did kind of give up loyalty to Kaido at some point. He wasn't, like, he wasn't willing to, like, fight to the death for Kaido, which Hawkins kind of was, I would say. But at the very least, he didn't, like, try to betray Kaido in some major way, although he did, I think, remember, try to make an alliance with Drake at some point. So, you know, he was a little bit duplicitous there, but you know, he was more of just like, it's the middle of this massive raid on Onigashima. Let's see where this is going. But yeah, who knows? Maybe Blackbeard will be like, Zehaha, all right, fine, you know, fine, come on in or whatever. Or he could just be hanging out on the island as, like, just a safe haven there. And he is bringing Inbi, who is the number one of the numbers. So he's pretty strong as well. So I don't know about Apoo. You know, I don't even know if Oda really has anything really specifically in mind for him. Guess we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I'm assuming he did leave Wano, but did not go to Wiener Island, Egghead, or Elbaf, went to some other location. And the only place that I think that makes any logical sense is Hachinosu. So I'm going to go with that right now for my headcanon. After Apoo, we have Trafalgar Law. 200 million upon first introduction, now 3 billion, although we don't really know. I don't think, we very clearly, the way that Law's crew was wiped out and the way that Kid's crew was wiped out were not the same. For one thing, we know Law is confirmed to still be alive with Beppo. He lost his favorite hat in the process, so he's got to get that hat back. There's a whole story arc now about Law getting his hat back, right? But we know he's alive. Beppo goes Sulong with the medication, with the Rumble Ball variant that Chopper gave him. He was able to knock back all of the Blackbeard pirates and grab Law and then get the hell out of there. And he's a polar bear because he can swim really well. You could say they're heading to Zoe because Beppo has, like, a natural homing instinct where he can maybe get to Zoe. It's also maybe a possible theory that they might end up in the Cross Guild because Law really has no connection to Mihawk or Crocodile or Buggy in the same way that the Straw Hats do. So maybe Law might end up joining the Cross Guild at some point, right? Like, because there's no immediate, like, Law would never work with Buggy. Law would never work with Mihawk or Crocodile. Law's never really interacted with those dudes. So, like, I don't see any problem with it. In fact, Law was actually kind of impressed by Buggy's status when he found out that he was a Yonko. He's like, oh, this is a guy you got to keep your eye on. And Luffy's like, no, he's an idiot, trust me. And Law's like, I don't know. It says right here he's the genius jester, Luffy. I don't know what to tell you, right? So, yeah, ending up with the Cross Guild could work. Returning to Zoe to heal could work as well. But as for the Polar Tang, it is destroyed. As for the rest of Law's crew, such as Ikaku and Sachi and Penguin and Jean Bart, they have all been defeated, probably captured and brought back to Hachinosu by Blackbeard. I don't think they're dead or anything like that. I think there's still more stuff they have to do. And also the whole idea is, like, Law and Beppo's, you know, story arc now is going to be to try to not just get back Law's hat, that is part of it, but also to rescue their crews. So eventually, if they do end up joining together with the Cross Guild, they might be like, all right, we'll join you, but you got to help us get our crew back. You know what I mean? We got to go to Hachinosu, we got to get our crew back or something like that. That could be the situation there with Law and Beppo. And I've made a video before about where their status is right now, okay? But, yeah, what a way to start off the final saga. Or really, yeah, I mean, like, you know, defeat Eustace Kid and Law in the same story arc. Although Eustace, I definitely got it more rough from Shanks than Law did. Law was able to escape. Blackbeard was a little bit, like, toying with him at the end and was also like, oh, the op fruit, it's really strong. Say, ha ha ha. What am I going to do? Steal it or sell it? What are we going to do? And that momentary, like, pause was enough for Beppo to go Sulong and like, hey, stay away from Captain. Rah! You know, I was like, so, yeah. But, like, Law will be okay. I'm sure he's recovering somewhere, and we're going to touch base with him at some point and find out what his next plan of action is going to be. Law is too popular and too hot to be removed from the story. Don't worry. Law will appear again. Law will appear again. In the new One Piece side manga, Law Gaiden. You know, like, yeah, no. I mean, maybe. I mean, honestly, you could do a whole side story with Law. I think people would read it. Okay, after Law, we have Diaz Drake with an original bounty of $220 million at Sabaody. It's crazy ranking these bounties from lowest to highest, given by their first appearance. Like, really, Drake was that high, huh? Hawkins was number 3. Right after Kid and Luffy was Hawkins, and then Drake was number 4. It's crazy at Sabaody. Okay, so Drake, member of Sword, captain of Sword, actually, and was working undercover in Kaido's crew to try to bring the Yonkos down from within. That was kind of the whole idea of Sword, that they kind of hand in their resignation into the Marines and then go do, they deal with the pirates their own way, kind of shit, right? Well, Queen finds out about that and realizes he's a traitor and is about to eliminate him. That's when Drake jumps out of the building and goes and turns into a giant allosaur and was like, oh, Luffy, I want to work with you now, right? And that didn't really pan out super well. I mean, eventually it just ended up with Drake dealing with Apoo and Cypherpole. Joseph, I think, was it Joseph? Oh, no, it was Guernica. He was the one that actually stabbed Drake there, which Drake had that dude basically dead to rights there. He basically had him impaled, and then Guernica was just like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to zip around you and stab you in the throat really quick. And just like, oh, come on, Drake. You could have just finished the job, right? Whatever. Anyway, he's not dead. He is recovering at the Marine Hospital right now alongside the other members of Sword that were partaking in the Hachinosu raid. So Kobe is there, and Hibari, and Prince Cruz, and Kujaku, and everybody. Garp was captured at Hachinosu, obviously, but we do see Drake in his own private room listening to Vegapunk's message, and he's covered in bandages, but he doesn't seem to be, like, mortally wounded or, like, missing an arm or something like that. Seems to be recovering fairly well, and he's going to get back into action at some point. After all of the members of Sword are recovered, they're going to go on their own mission. Now, I don't think that mission is going to be to go save Garp, because that's kind of the whole idea. Like, Prince Cruz was kind of telling Kobe that Kobe wants to immediately go back and rescue him, and Prince Cruz is like, that goes against his wishes. That was the whole idea, was, for him to save you and us, not to go back and for us to try to rescue him, although that still might happen because Garp is invaluable to the Marines still a very strong player. I'm just saying Garp would not want them to do that. But, yeah, after Drake fully recovers, we might have a really badass scene after that where he puts on his Marine coat. The first time we see Drake actually dressed as a proper Marine, since he, was pretending to be a traitor like his father, but it was actually just an undercover ploy. We see Drake put on his Marine coat of justice, and then he maybe has a different hairstyle, maybe he wears a different outfit, and he walks outside of the hospital, and all of the members of Sword are, like, around him, and, like, Kobe's there, Prince Cruz, Kujaku's there, Hibari's there, and, like, all right, let's do it. For justice, we are the future of the Marines. Maybe he gives him a pep talk, something like that. Maybe, possibly, or maybe Drake is just like, ugh, I can't. I'm just going to stay in the hospital, guys. I'm a broken man. I'm sorry. Kobe, you become the new captain of Sword. I just can't do it anymore. That could also maybe happen. We'll find out. We'll see. Next up, we have Basil Hawkins. 249 million berry bounty at the beginning of Sabaody. That's a large number, Luffy, okay, Kid was 315 million at that point. Luffy was 300. Basil Hawkins wasn't far behind them, only 249, basically 250. All right. Now, I already did a video about him not long ago because we were doing the Devil Fruit series. I'm going through every single Devil Fruit in the series. Never talked about the straw fruit, so that video was a little while ago, so kind of fresh in my mind. I'll tell you what about Hawkins. I was expecting more from his character. Like, the way that his personality was and everything like that. I was expecting him to be like, I follow the cards. I follow the fate, the threads of fate that we all make ourselves. And I was expecting, I don't know, there to be some moment where he decided, like, I have just been bowing to Kaido and allowing him to decide the fate for me. However, that is not the way I live my life. I decide my own fate, not the cards, not Kaido. I am the master of my own destiny. I don't know. I was expecting something like that. I was expecting something more philosophical, or, with Hawkins's character or his personality a little bit more unique than it was. It kind of just ended up him being like generic evil guy, except he uses tarot cards as like his shtick, his ability, right? He was a pretty bloodthirsty, cold, heartless dude, and yeah, that part's fine with it. I was expecting him to be. Okay, you know what? No, honestly, I wasn't expecting him to be as cold and heartless as he was. I guess I was expecting way more for his character beyond that, right? I was expecting him to be more, I guess, understanding of things or something, because he's apparently tapped into the universe with his cards and sensing the future and, like, the clairvoyance he had. I was expecting more from Hawkins than just being like, I'm gonna kill you, killer, you gotta die now, I was expecting more than that shit, It's just like, I don't know. He was more sadistic, I guess, than I expected. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's my headcanon for the character, and that's eventually what he ended up being. To me, it seemed like interesting premise that ends up just being generic evil villain trope is kind of what Hawkins was. Bloodthirsty, sadistic kind of dude. So he fights Killer and does the thing with the voodoo doll and Kid, and then Killer figures out, like, oh, wait, I'll just cut off your arm, because Kid doesn't have, an arm, he has the mechanical arm, so that's how he eventually ends up taking out Killer. He's on the ground bleeding out. Why didn't it work? We do see Hawkins one more time as he's, like, kind of, like, talking to Drake one last moment. He kind of shambles into the room, like, bleeding. He's slumps down, he collapses, and he says, hey, remember how I said there was a person that only has a 1% chance of survival by the end of the day? And they're like, yeah, it was me. Now, I think Oda's doing that on purpose, like 1% chance of survival. So if Oda wants to bring Hawkins back, he kind of has an out for that. He's like, well, I did say there was 1% chance he could survive. But no, out of all of the Supernovas right now, to be honest with you, I think Hawkins, if he's going to be the one that's just straight up dead and never coming back, might as well be. I think he's the one that makes the most sense. Urouge, I think there's still a lot of stuff. We haven't even really seen anything from Urouge. All right, so I would like to see Urouge again. Bege's got a good happy ending at the moment. Bonney is obviously, we just went through everything involving her at Egghead. Killer and Kid, if they're still alive, I'm not going to be that upset about it, really. I might be a little bit, like, annoyed, like, okay, this better be a good explanation how they survived that. But I'm not going to be super upset by it. Drake is obviously still alive. We know Law is still alive, and we know, obviously, Luffy is still alive, right? But out of all of them, Hawkins, I don't know. Maybe Oda did have a plan for his character. Like, I'm going to do something cool with him, but it just didn't end up, coalescing into anything meaningful. So, yeah, Hawkins, I think it's probably best if you just stay dead right now, because I don't really a place for you in the story anymore, right? Like, yeah. Then, finally, we already kind of talked about Luffy and Kid when I discussed Zoro and Killer, respectively. But yes, Luffy is also on Elbaf right now. He's a Yonko. He has Gear 5th, and he's also facing down Loki. Same with Zoro, in kind of the same situation right now. And then we have Eustace Captain Kid, who was defeated. Same deal with Killer. Kamusari, Divine Departure, Point Blank Range by Shanks. Yeah, maybe play the funeral march for him at the moment. But yeah, that's where they're at the moment, right? Okay, so, and then I guess if you want to include Blackbeard, he is currently at Hachinosu, correct? Yeah, he returned to Hachinosu, or he's about to return to Hachinosu after the whole incident with Garp and everything like that. Oh, you know what would be really fun if we saw Blackbeard kind of like going up to Garp in prison and talking to him. That'd be neat. Like Garp is all chained up to a mountain. Avalo Pizarro has to use every ounce of his strength and hockey to keep him contained, and then Blackbeard goes up to him like, so you're Garp the Fist. Nice to meet you. Right? And like, what would Blackbeard talk to Garp about? You think there's anything in particular that Garp would, well, he obviously wouldn't tell Blackbeard, but anything Blackbeard would want from him? It's just like, legends say you fought with Rocks back in the old days. Well, it turns out I'm Rox's son. maybe if that is the twist, which is a theory that a lot of people are throwing out there, Blackbeard's connection to rocks, maybe that would be the perfect way to explain it. You know, Garp is there. He's like, oh, you don't hold a candle to rocks. I fought against really dangerous pirates back in my day. You guys are just having a pissing contest right now compared to that. And then, you know, Blackbeard says, oh, it's interesting you bring up Zebek because I'm his, you know, second cousin twice removed. Wait, what? You know, I'm his nephew. What? You know, maybe we could do something like that. But, hey, yeah, that's probably what's happening with Blackbeard at the moment there. So, yeah, a lot of characters scattered all around. Not sure what Oda's going to do with some of them, but moving in here, we're getting close to the end of the story. So we're going to have this big final war happen. Got to throw some of the Supernovas in there. I think Apoo's going to make an appearance. Law's going to make an appearance. Drake's going to make an appearance with Sword. Urouge, dude. Or, here's another thing. Have Luffy find the One Piece and everything. Have all the story just conclude. And then in the very last chapter, in the very last page of One Piece, have Urouge show up and be like, it's time for me to make my move. Oh, it's all done? Everything's done? One Piece is found? Okay. All of the Yonka, all right, world government's taken care of. All right. Huh. And then end of One Piece. Last panel is Urouge, just looking confused. I'd laugh. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking signing out. Go enjoy St. Patrick's Day in moderation. All right. Have a good one. Later, everybody.